Sup, freaks? It's your boy Marty here to intro this long rip of Rabbit Hole Recap. Matt and I just went about an hour and 50 minutes. Very dense episode, very fun episode. I think you guys are going to love it. It's brought to you by our good friends at Unchained Capital. Unchain yourself. Unchained Capital. That's not one of their slogans, Unchain yourself. I just ran with that for some reason. But what does Unchained Capital do? They're helping Bitcoiners out by providing them with financial services with a security-first mindset. They want to stay true to the Bitcoin ethos by allowing you to have control over your UTXOs at every step of the process that you engage with them, whether that be through their Vault program, which is a 2 or 3 multi-sig quorum that you engage in with Unchained, in which you hold 2 or 3 keys using a Trezor or Ledger and soon to be a cold card as well, so that you can move your UTXOs out of that vault, out of that multi-sig wallet whenever you want to, by yourself without Unchained being involved. But if you're ever in a pinch, you only have 1 key on you and you need that second key to be signed in that 2 or 3 quorum, Unchained is there with a key as well to help you move those UTXOs. On top of that, they have their Vault program where you use Bitcoin as collateral to get same-day liquidity in US dollars. If you don't want to sell your Bitcoin and don't want the tax burdens of selling your Bitcoin for capital gains, you can get a collateralized loan in which you put Bitcoin up as collateral. You get US dollars, and then that is also a multi-sig setup where you hold 1 key, an escrow service holds another, and Unchained holds a third, and you can always use your key to prove that your UTXOs are where Unchained is telling you they are. And then beyond that, they're rolling out an OTC desk. Right now it's available in Texas, California, and Illinois for people who want to purchase big blocks of Bitcoin, pun intended. And on top of that, they have the incredible open source initiatives that they've been working on, which include Caravan, which is an open source release of their multi-sig quorum. If you don't want Unchained involved at all, they've open sourced the software that allows you to create these multi-sig wallets. They're also working on Slip39, not BIP39, and Hermit. And on top of that, they have an incredible blog, which includes Parker Lewis's Gradually Then Suddenly, Joe Kelly, Drew Bansal, Will Cole, and Buck are putting out incredible content. Go to www.unchained-capital.com. That's www.unchained-capital.com. Check out all of this stuff. Unchained doing incredible things. This episode's also brought to you by the motherfucking Cash App. Cash App. Cash App's helping you stack sats, send sats, receive sats, and sell sats, if you so please. On top of that, they're making sats the standard. No more stacking fractions of Bitcoin. You can stack whole sats. On top of that, you can DCA into sats. You can set it and forget it. DCA, what is that, Marty? What is that, Uncle Marty? What's DCA? Dollar cost average. If you want to set it and forget it, just buy an equal amount of Bitcoin on a certain cadence. So it'll be daily, weekly, bi-weekly. Cash App is allowing you to do that. On top of that, they have Cash App investing, which allows you to stack slivers of stonks if you so please. If your favorite stonk is a little too expensive and you can't afford the whole thing, you can buy as little as $1 via Cash App investing. And because this is all connected to your bank account, there's no 3 to 4 to 4 to 5, 5 to 6 day waiting periods. You can start investing and stacking sats today. Cash App investing is a subsidiary of Square and member SIPC. As always, make sure you use the code STACKINGSATS. That's STACKINGSATS. You're going to get $10, and $10 is going to go to our good friends at Owls Lacrosse. That's Owls Lacrosse. That's Owls Lacrosse. Enjoy this rip of Rabbit Hole Recap. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your life. You only got one to live. Embrace it. Take advantage of the day. Seize the day. Carpe diem, as they would say in Dead Poet Society. Enjoy. Take care.
You've had a dynamic where money's become freer than free.
If you talk about a Fed just gone nuts, all the central banks going nuts.
So it's all acting like safe haven.
I believe that in a world where central bankers are tripping over themselves to devalue their currency, Bitcoin wins. In the world of fiat currencies, Bitcoin is the victor.
I mean, that's part of the bull case for Bitcoin.
If you're not paying attention, you probably should be.
What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Rabbit Hole Recap. It's your boy Marty on the back porch studio, in the back porch studio, actually sandwiched between a couple of slip and slide parties from my neighbors in the backyards. Literally just started right before we hit record. So forgive me if there's sounds in the background. Matt, what are you sipping on today?
I am sipping on some Tamdhu. Definitely pronounced that wrong. Tamdhu. It's from the Scottish Highlands. What are you sipping on?
I've got some Blanton's bourbon here. The Blantons that you were gifted a bottle too, I believe, when we were given those minors.
The one with the horse on the top, right?
Yes. Very delicious whiskey.
I love the horse. When I went to Iceland, in Iceland, everything is extremely expensive in Iceland. It's one of the only places in the world I've been where the cost of living is more expensive than New York City, which is a very weird feeling. And alcohol specifically is also extra taxed. So like a really good rule, when international travel opens up again, is you're supposed to get a shit ton of duty-free alcohol on your way to Iceland so you don't have to buy it when you get there. And I got like this massive bottle of Blanton's because it had a huge horse on the top. The bigger the bottle, the bigger the horse. And I purely got it for that reason.
Well, they sold you on marketing and aesthetics, and they follow up with their product, at least in my opinion. It's a delicious whiskey. We're going to be drinking heavily today. A lot of big topics to talk about. What a day.
Please, freaks, drink responsibly.
What a day yesterday was. And we'll get into it. We'll quickly blow through Clark's dashboard right now. We've got the price at $9,123. Very deep consolidation. We've been consolidating for almost 10 weeks now around this low 9,000, high 9,000 price range. That makes me extra bullish, actually. I really like this consolidation. I think it's not that we talk about or try to predict price movements. I just like to see when price consolidates like this. Currently at block height 639,546, 454 blocks away from block 640,000. No significance. That's just a nice, big, even number. We had a difficulty adjustment earlier this week, and it was an increase of about 10%. The hash rate in the last 2016 blocks is averaging about 123.8 exahash a second. We have 1,542 blocks till the next retarget, which is scheduled right now. It's estimated around July 26th, and that is estimated to be a negative 1% downward difficulty adjustment. Fees right now making up 6.44% of the total block reward. We got our core version 0.20.0. It is the most downloaded node version right now. 22.8% of the network nodes are using that version, the latest version. Interesting to see. Samurai Whirlpool unspent capacity is currently at 1,154.76 Bitcoin. The cycles in the last 30 days are 7,464, and the TX0 volume in the last 30 days is 366.67 Bitcoin. What have you been seeing on Whirlpool stats?
It looks healthy. Could be higher. We'll talk about the Twitter hacker in a minute, but he didn't use Whirlpool, so
No, looks like
he didn't contribute to the volume.
I've seen some chain analysis of the Twitter hacker. He is not very smart.
Pretty bad. Pretty much as bad as you can get.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? You were talking about consolidation of the price.
Yes.
And you told all the freaks to market buy.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say that directly. I was sort of alluding to it, but you can if you want to.
But usually when we get into these consolidations, right, where it's just like volatility just goes down and down and down and down, something big's going to happen.
Yeah.
It'll either break up or down really big. That's what happens. That's the volatility will be back soon enough, freaks.
I mean,
and I think that's part of the reason why Twitter has been kind of lame. Bitcoin Twitter has been lame until the hack yesterday, is because when there's like no volatility, there's just people just start going at each other.
Yeah, they start eating each other and they get bored. I try to stay above that fray. Do I do a good job? I think you do an incredible job. You stay focused on high quality tweets.
I try my best. Yeah. It's very difficult.
I think you do a good job, though. Yesterday was exciting. Let's just jump into yesterday.
Talking about bullish, I said to myself, so yesterday, if you were under a rock, there was someone hacked Twitter, and they were posting from major big accounts a Bitcoin scam. And first it was a link to a Bitcoin scam website, one of those giveaways, send Bitcoin, we'll send you 2x back. And then they just started posting BC1 addresses, just Bitcoin addresses directly into Twitter accounts, tweets. In Bill Gates got hit, Barack Obama got hit, Joe Biden got hit. And I said to myself, is this bullish for Bitcoin? And I was like, everything's bullish for Bitcoin, Matt. And I just market bought. Like and it's down since then. So
this is extremely bullish.
Lower your time preference.
Extremely bullish for Bitcoin. The fact that they're using Bec32, it literally was the best marketing day for Bitcoin this year. Dan Held, I hope you're happy. We got some grassroots marketing efforts from this hacker, and we should know.
Is Dan to blame for the hacker? Was the hacker like, oh, we need better marketing? And Dan convinced me.
I mean, he seems like he's on top of the Bitcoin space, particularly. I mean, Angelo BTC was the first to get hacked. So
right. It started in Bitcoin Twitter.
Yeah.
That's why I think it was a Bitcoiner.
Yeah.
And then it moved to went from Angelo to like
the exchanges,
the Bitcoin exchanges, then CoinDesk, and then so my take is twofold. I think it appears now that the hacker got access to an admin console, like a super user mode of Twitter. So I have two takes here that I want to start off with. I think you'd agree with me. The first take is it obviously shows the perils of having a centralized system with admin keys, which is very common in the crypto space to have admin keys and centralized control. So it's something that people should really learn from this. Trusted third parties or security holes. And the second thing is I wouldn't be surprised if this admin console is something that was always very, closely guarded and secured in their offices. Where I think you went to Square's office once, right?
Yes, I did.
Disclosure sponsor the pod. I imagine Square's office, which was in the same building as Twitter, is a very similar concept. And you have to do like KYC to go in and stuff. It's like very tightly guarded. And they have all these access controls and stuff. But now all their employees are working from home and shit. So one of their employees had the admin console like on their laptop at home, and that's how it got compromised. It's a very different situation for these companies when all their employees are working remote.
Yeah, it opens up another attack vector, and so that's the big question right now. A lot of people are assuming the Motherboard came out with a good article. Apparently, they have sources close to the situation. They're saying that a Twitter employee was bribed to get access to this panel, and then it just gave them God mode over all these accounts. And that was the big question as the hacks were going on. A lot of people were speculating that it was a third-party service like Hootsuite that had been hacked and the API calls were being messed with, but it later came like a lot of these accounts had 2FA on, especially the exchange accounts, and it became apparent that people were having their email addresses changed in the background without even being notified via email. So that may be a function of this admin panel. And so, yeah, somebody got root access to Twitter's God mode and asked for Bitcoin donations and using Bec32 addresses. So you have the Chad root access Bitcoin scammer versus the Virgin reply guy bot ETH scammer. I think that's very bullish for Bitcoin. Very bad day for
I wouldn't-
very bad day for Twitter though, dude. They're gonna get dragged into court for this because.
The stock barely budged.
But I mean the whole
Efficient market hypothesis. What's up?
The whole platform versus publisher debate is going to get dragged really into the spotlight here because if the screenshots of this admin tool are real, they have shadow ban list and blacklist, which Twitter has come out in the past and say they do not curate content or push certain content over another piece of content. So
have they actually said that?
I think so, in court too. That's what it's the word on the street is that.
I thought it was known that they have like algorithms and shit. I thought they said they don't shadow ban. They never admitted to shadow banning.
Yeah, well, that's exactly. That's the and that's the shadow banning and sort of hashtag banning is what people are honing in on, because I think in the past they said they do not do that, and this
they block trends and stuff.
Yeah, and the screenshot that's going around, I can't confirm whether or not it's real or not, but if it is real, those were two sort of buttons on or tags on the dashboard where
it must be real because Twitter's deleting them.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, tough.
So it's got to be real. They're like basically admitting to it being real.
Well, that's what like Cernovich tweeted out yesterday. They're going to get Section 230 of that bill dragged into this discussion, because if this is true, it does make a very good case that Twitter is acting as a publisher, not a platform, which makes things a bit.
Well, I don't want regulators to be regulating all these things.
No, neither do I. But
it's not a good sign.
Neither do I, and that's why. I mean, Twitter is shooting themselves in the foot, right?
They should just like preempt it. They should just switch back to a time-based feed. They should do no moderation. They should allow you to subscribe to moderation lists and let those people moderate for you. I could imagine like you could subscribe to like all different organizations that have the power to moderate whatever you want to see, or you can just do completely unfiltered Twitter, but just time-based, and like that takes them completely out of the equation, and they can just skip all of this. One thing that's interesting is Trump. I think it was like a year ago or 2 years ago, like a rogue Twitter employee like deleted a bunch of his tweets or deleted his account. Yeah. So I think they like put him on like a locked list. Like he wasn't in the admin console, which is probably one of the reasons why like Biden and Obama got hit, but he didn't get hit.
Yeah. I mean, that's a scary situation about all this. Go read your Zabo freaks. Third parties are security holes. Trusted third parties are security holes. And a lot of people are surmising that if Trump's account were to be hacked and this hacker wasn't so gung-ho on getting Bitcoin, instead was gung-ho on fomenting chaos in the world, he could hack Trump's account and send out some tweets that incite reactions from countries around the world. And it's fascinating to think of how important Twitter has become as a communications tool in today's day and age, and how much trust we put in this platform. And it yesterday proved like, holy shit, you can't really trust that anything is safe on this platform. And so the other thing too is
you shouldn't have to begin
with. Did the attacker really want Bitcoin, or is that just a sort of facade to really get to the DMs of these powerful people? Which
No. I want to push back on this like Chad hacker meme. Like this guy wasn't a Chad. I respect it, but like I don't think they knew how much power they had. I think they like stumbled into it. That's why they started with Angelo first. And there's so many different ways that, first of all, they could have made more money. They could have, if DMs were really the thing, don't do any posts. You could just silently be collecting all these different DMs, and you can just be in there just for a while, and just take all these DMs. There's no reason to blow up your spot. Like, I'm surprised Twitter took so long to, I think some people mistakenly think that the hacker disabled blue checks from tweeting, which also is hilarious because I would never get a blue check. But it was actually Twitter doing a safeguard. They were like, okay, we can just disable all blue checks so the hacker can't access blue checks without taking down the whole platform. But like, I'm surprised Twitter didn't just take down the whole platform, just like pull the plug to try and mitigate it. And they basically did by taking down the blue checks. At least they took, like their corporate platform down. And there's so many ways. Like, even like, imagine if the only tweet that went out was like Obama pumping a shitcoin, right? Or like Elon pumping a shitcoin, like announcing that he had taken a 10% position in Dogecoin or something, right? Like, and then the hacker is like 100x somewhere on some exchange and just like makes bank. He can make so much more than $100,000. And one thing that I want people to realize is the total amount in the address is not how much the attacker made, because they intentionally send money to themselves to make it seem like it's more active. So it's an easier scam to fall into if you see that the address is more active.
Yeah, they try to create like a group mentality. Ooh, people are sending it here. I should too.
A FOMO kind of thing.
Yeah. No, and I think I would agree with you there, especially after seeing this chain analysis of the movements of the coins before and after this hack. This dude's screwed. I think they're going to be able to find him.
Oh, yeah. The Bitcoin part is probably his weakest link. That's how fucked up Bitcoin's privacy guarantees are, that if you don't use Bitcoin safely, like in a educated way, like it becomes your biggest leak. This guy could have used Tor and all these other privacy preserving things, but the Bitcoin itself will be his downfall.
Yeah, this hacker is not listening to TFTC. He should.
The chain analysis is horrible. Yeah. Like, like what we've seen from the graphs of his transactions, like it is severely bad. Like BitMEX is in there, Coinbase is in there, Coin Payments is in there.
Yeah, what is Coin Payments? That's all I've never heard of them.
It's like a smaller bit refill.
Okay. All right. Like
gift cards for Bitcoin.
I can turn my mic back up here. It seems like the sprinkler parties are over. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the fallout is for Twitter as the company. People's trust in it certainly hurt yesterday. It was a wounded trust model there. You take these things for granted, and then something like yesterday happens, and it really drives the point home. Like, holy shit, you can't trust any of these companies with your data. And DMs on Twitter, like, don't talk about anything that you wouldn't want the dude with the Twitter admin access to be able to read.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I tell people to use PGP or Keybase, when they message me. Like, Twitter DMs, it's, it is not, and you can't delete them either, so it's not even just not encrypted. You can't even delete them. And a lot of times they're tied to people's real identities. Yeah, I do want to say that, first of all, hopefully this does push a few people to realize the importance of encryption and distribution and decentralization, and trying to reduce trusted third parties and open source software. And it will, but the overwhelming majority are going to completely forget about this, just like what happened with Equifax, when like every American adult got all of their personal information stolen. No one talks about it.
Yeah, but do you think the fact that DMs are exposed here would make people act more aggressively?
Look, maybe if there's like a long, pronounced, like every week new celebrities, like crazy DMs get posted, then people will realize. But two things. First of all, I don't think that they actually went for DMs. I think it's amateur hour. I think it was, they had no idea what they were doing. They didn't really plan it out, and they kind of just went for it, and they just were going for it. It's just like the one thing happened after next. They're like, oh my God, we have access to all this shit. And the second thing is, how do you release those DMs? Are you going to release them as screenshots?
Yeah, how do you prove that?
How do you verify that?
That's a good question.
Like, are we going to see a bunch of fake DM leaks now?
Potentially.
All right, if there were real DM leaks, do they get intermixed with fake ones? Most likely. If there's real ones, they'll definitely get intermixed with fake ones.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing about entities like WikiLeaks that take emails and that can be cryptographically verified on the internet. You can't verify these DMs. Yeah. So if these DMs are released, you can't really trust that they're real. So I guess that can give anybody who was hacked a small peace of mind there.
Well, I mean, if they had admin console, we were all hacked. It's just we just didn't all have our tweets. We didn't have tweets sent out from our whatever.
What'd you think of the fake tweet I sent out?
Oh my god, I unretweeted it after I read. The first time I saw it, I laughed out loud. I literally thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. I retweeted it, and then I had like a bunch of people message me to let me know that you got hacked. So then I unretweeted it because I was like, people didn't get the joke. They didn't realize. I like that you switched it to Bitcoin for health instead of crypto for health as well. Thought that was a nice touch.
And I thought it was.
Yeah, no, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I thought it was ethical too, not to tie that we're going to give back Bitcoin, but qual takes. Just in case somebody.
Yeah, no, it was very good tweet, but like it tricked a lot of people. I got so many DMs, ironically enough, telling me that you got hacked and I needed to help you. The other thing I wanted to say is like this is the point of the story where I grandstand about why I've always taken a hard line about buying engagement through Bitcoin giveaways and crypto giveaways. Okay, because when you normalize this fucking behavior, then you enable scammers to use that same behavior. So I hope some people that have been doing giveaways take that away from this. Not everyone will, but hopefully some will.
Yeah. And I think this guy is going to get caught pretty quickly. So
100%. 100%.
What an idiot. I hope it was worth the joyride on Twitter, admins 12 for 6 hours, whatever it was.
I wonder if it was a freak.
Hey, let us know. We'll write you letters in prison about what you should do better next time.
We will not.
You know who is a freak?
I mean, we'll write you letters, but we're not going to give you any kind of advice on evading law enforcement.
Well, talking about evading law enforcement, I think we've got one of the biggest law enforcers, particularly from the Treasury Department, as a freak. Steve Munchinbutts gave us a shout out as critical. TFTC is critical to the fight against terrorism. So that's
what does it really stand for?
I think the terrorist financing something
criminals
task force or something like that.
Task force.
Yeah.
Terrorist.
No. Terrorist financing task force coalition or something. I don't know. Tales from the Crypt.
TFTC.
No, it stands for Tales from the Crypt.
Thanks to the hard work at TFTC.
Dude, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that because the freaks, shout out to you freaks, spammed his mentions. Like out of 56 mentions, I think 30 are about our podcast.
Imagine being like one of the most powerful people in the world, and when you send out a tweet and all of your engagement is a Bitcoin podcast and you just fucking hate Bitcoin.
Steve, that
would rile me up. I hope it didn't like put us on his bad list.
Well, that's like, are we on Steve Munchinbutts' radar now?
I don't know. It's Marty's podcast, Steve, if you're listening. Just hit him.
Yeah. Hit me up, Steve. I'd love to have you on. We can have a nice discussion. We won't bite.
We'll write you letters in jail.
From jail or in jail? Or to jail?
I don't know. Steve Mnuchin just thinks that like all Bitcoiners are criminals. He's like a true Bitcoin denier.
Steve, we're not all that bad.
He's an enemy of Bitcoin.
We're not all that bad. Hey, he likes TFTC though. Maybe he's coming around. Maybe. Hey, Steve, the invite's open. We're not bad people, okay? On the Bitcoin stuff, on the more pertinent Bitcoin stuff, we mentioned the Samurai rounds while looking at Clark Moody's dashboard. A bit of drama with Samurai this week. Shinobi revealed to them last month on June 15th about a sort of address reuse with the post-mix spends that he discovered, and I guess he gave them a month to responsibly disclose what he had discovered. And yesterday, the Samurai team and Shinobi sort of wrote postmortems on what was going on, how it happened. You probably understand this much better than I do, Matt. So what the hell is going on here?
So I'm still trying to. This did drop yesterday. As you said, Shinobi responsibly disclosed it to the Samurai team a month ago, which is great to see. When you find a vulnerability, you responsibly disclose. And the claim is address reuse in the post-mix. Not in Whirlpool, but in the post-mix. So after you go through Whirlpool, you end up with a bunch of post-mix UTXOs. And obviously, address reuse is bad for privacy, right? So in the post-mix, you don't want any address reuse. And one of Samurai's big goals is to reduce address reuse and bad post-mix behavior as much as possible. Try and automate that away. So, but people are going to be people. So there's a bunch of address reuse that, so Samurai tried to replicate it. They couldn't replicate it. So instead they went back and Shinobi gave them 200 transactions of 5,000 that he found. And then these 5,000 he then posted yesterday. But up until that point, he gave them 200. They couldn't replicate it. So what they did was they went back and they did all 12,000 post-mix UTXOs that have ever been, and they analyzed them to see when there was address reuse. The majority of time there was address reuse. It was like intentional address reuse, right? So it's like a user sending to like Paxville or something. A lot of them were Paxful for whatever reason. Which is like a gift card exchange site. And you're just sending to an address that has been used before, right? So like the wallet can try its best, but like if the user wants to send it to a reused address, like they're going to send it to a reused address.
So that's my question. Like in the post mix, like when you're done mixing, is there a stage within Whirlpool or Samurai wallet where it's still within Samurai software and sitting in an address after it's been mixed and isn't live anymore?
So there's a small subset. There was a small subset of like 400 transactions that addresses were reused, and it appears they were reused unintentionally. And most likely, from my limited understanding here so far, I don't want to like make too big conclusions, and we will keep discussing this. We're going to talk about it next week as well. There was situations where there was unintentional address reuse, and that's the big risk. Like if a user wants to, like if a user has like a good example is like BitMEX, right? Your BitMEX deposit address, which you should never use BitMEX, is a fixed address. It never changes, right? So if you send to that from Postmix over and over again, like that's address reuse. There's nothing the Samurai team can do about that. Like if the user wants to do that, the user's going to do that. You can like pop up a warning, but the user's going to do that. There's this other subset, unintentional address reuse, where the change output, right? You send Bitcoin, you get back change in your Postmix wallet. That change is reused. Now that's an issue. You don't want to ever reuse a change address because you don't have to, and Samurai can enforce that. So presumably these small subset of transactions where that happened, it happened because of a Tor reliability issue and the wallet losing track of where it is in the wallet, right? Which addresses have been used.
It's like a jump forward type bug or something like that.
But backwards.
Yeah.
But jump forward would be gap limit, right?
Yeah.
Where like your wallet doesn't know where they are, but jump backwards and then all of a sudden you're reusing addresses you've already reused before.
It's because of latency
So-
issues because of Tor.
Yeah, it seems that way. I'm not positive. For now, what Samurai has done is they updated Dojo to add this strict mode, which basically Dojo's is your the back end, and they've upgraded their back end. So if you're using it in light client mode, which you shouldn't be, frankly, or if you use the upgraded version of Dojo V 0.1.7, I believe, is it that just released? No, V 1.7. It enforces it will not broadcast the transaction if that change address has been reused, if there's unintentional reuse. And then one other thing I can add here is that I looked at all my post-mix transactions I'm using my own Dojo. I looked at all my post-mix transactions. I have no unintentional address reuse in there. So like I don't have the wherewithal to do like massive chain analysis, but for my limited analysis of my usage of it, I've never experienced that. And then one other thing, which is also unconfirmed because I don't have the capability to do like massive chain analysis, is the majority of these transactions were from before they even implemented mobile mixing. These unintentional. So it's on older versions of Samurai. But an easy way to check to see if you have used address reuse is if you go to blockstream.info's Tor portal on through your Tor browser. You go to blockstream.info, and actually now Tor browser, it automatically will ask you if you want. On the top, you can click, and it automatically takes you to the onion, and then you can set it so it just automatically brings you the onion every time. And if you put your transaction ID in there, it will show you if the address has been reused or not. But one thing to keep in mind is if you keep putting in addresses, then technically Blockstream could link those addresses. So what you want to do is in Tor browser, every time you do it, you can switch your Tor identity, and then it swaps your Tor identity when you do it. If you want to check your own post mix transactions, and if you upgrade to Dojo, if you upgrade your Dojo, then it'll block it on the back end side while they continue to investigate. They just wanted to make sure that they like nipped it in the bud for now.
Yeah, the coin join wars continue. The flame wars.
Yes. I want to say though that this has been the most responsible exchange between the two so-called sides here. Here at TFTC, we're often caught in the middle, but this has been the most responsible exchange. Shinobi responsibly reported it to them. They released a very in-depth analysis and a patch to the software. So that's good to see, right? That's definitely a positive element.
Is Shinobi even officially associated with Wasabi, or is he just partial towards?
He's not officially associated with Wasabi, but No Power is a co-host on
That's true.
Block Digest.
That's true.
And they don't mince words between each other, Shinobi and the Samurai guys. So,
No. Samurai guys are not.
It is nice that this was handled maturely on both sides. And at the end of the day, Samurai users they're in a better situation now than they were before. So we'll see. I mean, look, regardless, still way better off than whatever this fucking hacker did. He didn't even attempt to fucking do anything. I don't even know.
What an idiot! He's definitely not a freak because he would have coin joined.
Well, when I saw the BC1 at first,
I was like, all right, based.
I thought, Wasabi and Samurai both default to that. That's the only address type you can use to use them. So I assumed he was getting all of his funds were going straight into one or the other. And I was waiting for him to just press coin join, and it didn't happen. I was surprised.
No. Our hacker, not friend, the hacker that we're talking about, we will write to you in prison. We won't teach you how to be smarter, but we'll We'll tell you where you fucked up. How about that?
I think a lot of people are going to tell him or her.
Or her.
We can't be.
Can't be too sure.
We can't assume their gender.
No, we cannot. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I tried my best to explain my understanding there. I hope that was helpful to you, freaks. And we will talk about it again. I've been trying to talk to other people about it and try and gauge their opinions and their takes. And the privacy-focused community in Bitcoin is a very close-knit community, a very small group of people.
Is it really close-knit?
So I'm just saying, like, it got dropped on us, right, as of yesterday. So, like, I'm curious what a lot of other people have what their opinions are of this, and I'm going to gauge their opinions, and I will share their opinions as well next week.
Yeah.
And my opinion will probably also
shift a little bit, or
mature or something.
I like mature. Mature is better than shift.
It'll evolve. My opinion will.
Your
evolve
understanding.
Next
I won't
week.
even say opinion. Your understanding will.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey! Shout out to all these teams working on CoinJoin implementations. I know you guys hate each other at some points and yell at each other. And hey, I even get caught in the crosshairs of your ire. Even though you guys yell at me and lament to me sometimes, I appreciate what you do. You know, I'll eat those lumps when I have to. Shout out to you guys. What do we got next? Should we just run through updates and then get to like the meaty topics?
Yeah, but before we do that, just like a really quick bullish thing. Difficulty hits new all-time high. Where's the mining death spiral?
17 trillion or something like that. Or 17 to something power. I forget what it is.
Ari Paul should be funding Bitcoin development instead of fucking fudding Bitcoin death spirals. Is what should be happening.
Have I been blocked by Ari? I haven't seen. No, he still follows me.
I'm blocked by him. He blocked me a while ago. He's in good company.
He hasn't been tweeting that much.
That's what people always ask me, like, Matt, how do you do it with no empty block lists and empty mute lists? Well, like, all the worst offenders, they all get pissed off at me and block me, so they just do the work for me.
Yeah. We talked about this before. I don't have a problem blocking people. You know, only have so much mental bandwidth that you can allow others to take up in your mentions.
Well, you know, good old fashioned ignore.
No, I agree. You can ignore or just like never see it, which is even better than ignore. It takes effort to ignore.
Agree to disagree, Marty. Agree to disagree.
I can agree to disagree when somebody's trying to have a civil discussion, but when it's...
Oh, no, I was saying me and you.
Oh, yes.
We can agree to disagree on this topic.
Always.
Look, most people on Bitcoin Twitter disagree with me on this topic, so you're in good company.
Yeah. Another attack on the Lightning Network being brought...
Oh, well, let's run through the updates.
Okay, let's run through the updates. All right. Any of you hardcore freaks running a bunch of different software, hardware, apps in the Bitcoin world, running your sats through this, there have been a bunch of updates this week. Do we want to just run through them and tell them that they should update, or do you have any particular updates that you want to focus on and talk about what's been merged?
Zap Desktop was a huge fucking update because they've been working on Strike this whole time. So they like brought it up to speed. They just added keysend support, I believe. A bunch of other reliability things have been added to that. So that's like a massive update if you're a Zap user. Zeus just got updated to V0.3.0.
It's a major update too, right?
Yeah, these are all pretty big updates. BISC got updated. V1.3.6.
Staying on BISC, I really like their marketing efforts recently. The videos they've been putting out. It seems like that BISC DAO is putting some money to work to bring more attention to BISC.
That's one thing I wanted to mention. Yeah, I fucking love BISC. Shout out to that team over there. I wanted to... we talked about Plaid and because Zap just came up. So I thought about Strike, and I thought about Jack Mahler's, our boy Jack. And we talked about Plaid being integrated there. He did like a tell-all interview with Block Digest that the freaks should go listen to. And, you know, Janine over there is major privacy advocate and tons of respect for her. So she asked him a bunch of hard-hitting questions. You know, Plaid is now rolled into Visa, who they partnered with. It's only the Plaid integration is used if you connect your bank account, not if you do the debit card. The other thing that's interesting to mention is that they're using a partner called Cognito, which is that's why it's debit card plus phone number plus name is all the KYC you have to do, is because Cognito uses the phone number and the name to look up all the other required KYC info. So if you don't have a social security number and shit attached to that phone number and name that Cognito has in their database, that's when Strike asks you for more information. So it shouldn't be considered KYC free or KYC light even, but like it's a benefit that at least you don't have to put that information's already out there. Cognito already has it. You don't have to trust Jack to securely store it, right? And it reduces friction there. So there's a benefit in that regard, but it's not really the like lack of KYC. And then the other thing is I discovered after I, shout on Plaid, is that Cash App has Plaid integrated, who's our sponsor. So it would behoove me to mention that. And the reason I didn't realize that is because it's the same thing. Plaid comes into play if you set up like ACH, if you set up like a bank transfer. If you do it through debit card, Plaid isn't involved. So just another thing to keep in mind. I needed to get that off my chest.
Be aware, freaks. Be aware.
We love you, Jack. Keep hustling.
Yeah, be aware. Be aware. No, that's what somebody's coming at me for KYC stuff today. And again, I don't think we could be more vocal about pointing out how evil KYC AML is and how much more harm it does than good. We also,
fucking hate KYC.
Yeah, but again, like you also have to feel for some of these providers who it's forced upon them too. They can't operate, right? And so hopefully we get to a point where some of these financial institutions and fintech companies are able to band together and stand up against this. But like, maybe that's something we should think about as a group, as a community of freaks here. Like, how can we give these companies confidence to stand up against these immoral laws at the end of the day? Like, do we as users of these products need to be more vocal? What are your thoughts, Matt?
Well, first of all, I want to thank all the freaks out there for keeping me honest. You can count on us to always return the favor as well. And KYC is fucking dangerous. We hate KYC. I think it's really one of the things I love about the Bitcoin community is I get shit from the no KYC absolutists saying that, we shouldn't have a KYC sponsor and we talk about KYC products too much. And then I get shit from the KYC lovers, the statists on the other side who are like, you talk about no KYC too much and it's just not practical and all this stuff. So we get shit from both sides, and that's how I think that's confirmation that we're doing it right. But yeah, we should give them cover. I think the other thing is like an important practical thing is like if you are going to KYC, you should choose your providers very, very, very carefully because you're trusting them intimately. And you should reduce the amount of usage you use there. So there's some nuance there, right? So you want to isolate where you do the KYC, and you want to pick providers you trust. And then the other thing is, and I can't believe this week the Twitter hacking shit has been so crazy that we didn't lead with this story. At least they're not fucking selling surveillance software to the IRS and the fucking U.S. Secret Service. And let me remind you that the U.S. Secret Service were the ones who were in charge of fucking Executive Order 6102, like actually doing that fucking order to take people's fucking gold from them.
Yeah, And again, I'm very selective with who I allow to advertise on this podcast, and partner with Cash App and Unchained particularly because I know they have people within those companies who have the balls to stick up to these chain analysis companies and tell you fuck off. We don't need your services. We don't want to spy on our users more than the KYC AML regulations are forcing us to.
Well, I know I think Unchained doesn't even. I don't want to put words in their mouth.
No, Unchained's come out and stood up for CoinJoin. It's like, hey, if you CoinJoin right before
they stood up for CoinJoins, but I don't know if they have a subscription to one of these services. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they definitely specifically said that they're fine with CoinJoins, and we've never seen any kind of Cash App will never say it publicly, but we've never seen any kind. Knock on wood, we've never seen any kind of issue there. With Cash App and withdrawing to CoinJoin. I do like to think that these companies are a step above, and if they want to, if something happens, like, we will call them out. But once again, even subscribing to a chain analysis service, to a surveillance company service, is wildly different than what Coinbase is doing, which is packaging their own service, creating their own surveillance product, selling it to the U.S. government agencies, while virtue signaling on Twitter that they're about open finance. Like, we had Brian Armstrong finally spoke about it, and he tried to excuse it away. He said they're trying to recoup costs. Coinbase is fucking rolling in the shitcoin money. They are not recouping costs selling surveillance software to the Secret Service for $184K, I think, for 4 years. Like, way below market. My sources telling me that Elliptic, which is like the number 2, sells for like $50K a year, and Chain Analysis sells for like $125K a year. Selling it to the U.S. Secret Service for $184K for 4 years is not, like, that's pennies. On Coinbase's balance sheet, that's pennies. They are not doing it to recoup costs. They're doing it because they're brown-nosing. They're, like, getting on their knees, and they're, like, trying to get around the fact that they sold unregistered securities to the general public, and they want to go public themselves on fucking stock exchange. Like, we know exactly what you're doing, Brian.
What's that? They've had Katie Haun on their board, who's ex-Department of Justice, I'm pretty sure. I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum. Naked Mole Rat
hacking team.
Naked Mole Rat and crew is just consistently throughout time been anti-Bitcoin at every turn, like, pushing contentious forks, pushing shitcoins, doing this data share with the government, and really just handing over everything about their customers to government agencies. And I mean, we can beat a dead horse here, but, like, just look at their actions. Don't look at Brian. I mean, you can read Brian Armstrong's, the Naked Mole Rats tweet threads. It's all fucking air, man. Coinbase is A16Z's portfolio consolidation company within the crypto sphere, and they are more game to play ball with regulators than anybody else in the industry that I've experienced.
No, yeah, I mean, they just continuously take it to the next level.
Like, I love the meme that you made too, the open finance meme.
A meme is, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, I think, like, a meme's worth, 100,000 words or something like that. A nice, good meme. Naked Mole Rat's taking off. I see it in under all of his tweets. It must drive him crazy.
Well, does he even have a soul? He's like robotic. I don't know. Brian, I know you're going to whoop it.
I don't know. I got a lot of shit for saying that Coinbase employees didn't have a soul, so.
I'm not. I know a few Coinbase employees. They're very good people. They're very good Bitcoiners.
Well, then why haven't they left the company yet?
Yeah, Matt, I don't know. I can't.
Coinbase employees aren't like McDonald's hamburger flippers. Okay, they can be hired by any company in the space they want to go to.
Go help Cash App,
they're getting
River.
Paid top dollar.
Go help those exchanges.
They're not like I'm sorry, okay? I'm not going to give you the whole or you're going after someone's livelihood. Like, they can move. Like, they can switch. And now all the jobs are remote. But even if they weren't, like, they're based in Silicon Valley. They can go to any of those companies. They would be happy to have them.
Well, this actually drives a good point and is a good segue into another topic that we have on the list about blockchain.info as well. It's like these early movers in this space have a lot of influence, man. Like, even though we shit on Coinbase a lot, we're basically screaming into the ether because newcomers don't listen to this podcast and don't know.
Ether? I thought this was a Bitcoin podcast.
No, ether as it was originally intended. And ether, the asset, probably actually definitionally like vibes with that definition. Like, you're just throwing your money into an abyss. But or is that the fire? A fire, an abyss, whatever. But going back to the topic at hand, these incumbents, these early movers in the space, blockchain.info with their wallets and Coinbase with their exchange and market share, they still have a lot of influence.
Yeah, so this German Bitcoin developer, 0xB10C, who actually spoke at New York BitDevs pre-Rona, so I met him there. Great dude. Did an in-depth analysis of blockchain.info users using wallet fingerprinting techniques, which is what we've discussed in the past on this podcast, which is unique things that the blockchain.info wallet does with their transactions. You know, they don't have SegWit enabled is one of those fingerprints that allows you to track the transactions along the chain to see how much their usage is. And it does appear that they are about 30% of transactions are blockchain.info users. And you should not use this wallet. Like, this is a really, really bad wallet. You know, that is there's consensus there on this wallet just being fucking horrible. So, yeah, like, that sucks to see. And I mean, if you want to look at how bad the situation is, I mean, just open up the App Store.
Is it their app wallet or the web wallet?
It's both. And if you know, so blockchain.info started as a web wallet. It was one of the first non-custodial, easy-to-use web wallets. So as Marty said, it's had first mover advantage. I mean, they also have blockchain.com, which is like an insanely good domain. I mean, the freaks know what I think about domains. I mean, it's not as good quality as cuckmentality.com, but it's close. It's like up there. So they've been able to ride that tide. And if you want to see how bad the situation is, I mean, you go into the App Store or the Play Store on Android, you type in Bitcoin wallet, all the top results are complete shit. So, you know, consider going in there and rating the wallets you like up, you know, to help them out. Do consider, though, if you do it on Play Store, it doxes your Google account being interested in Bitcoin, which is not ideal. On Apple, they don't do that, interestingly enough. So use a burner Gmail account if you're... Look, you shouldn't be using Play Store anyway to download your Bitcoin wallets. You should either be downloading the APK directly and PGP verifying, or download from F-Droid. But what are you going to do? I don't know. These are things you can do. If you are using Play Store, rate them up. Or don't. Consider the privacy implications.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy, dude. 30% of transactions coming from blockchain.info wallets? Like, who the hell are using it? Like, these people must not go on the internet much.
They're saying 30% to 35%.
That's a significant portion of the network right there.
That's pretty crazy, right? Like, you'd think it was way lower. I mean, I thought we had, like, pretty good consensus that no one should be using that fucking wallet.
Yeah, like, and I guess that drives the question, like, again, are we just speaking into the ether here? Like, who are true Bitcoin end users? Are they even aware about conversations going on Twitter, on podcasts, in other areas?
Well, that's why I've said this in the past, like, the only way this thing scales is if the freaks go out there and they tell, like, their friends and family, you know? Like, that's the only way this scales. Like, we're never going to be able to hit everyone. Everyone's not going to be on Twitter. Everyone's not going to be on Reddit. I mean, Reddit consensus has been anti-blockchain.info.com for fucking years now, right? So like you gotta be a good Uncle Jim. That's what it comes down to.
Hey, freaks, do your part. Get out there. Start knocking up on your neighbors' doors. Hey, you should listen to this podcast. Take their phones out of their hands. If they answer the door after you knock on it and they have their hand in their phone, their phone in their hand. You take that phone out of their hand. You go to their podcast app and you just subscribe them to this podcast and say, hey, you look them in the eyes sternly. You say, listen to this podcast, and I'm going to come back next week and I'm going to ask you if you listen to the podcast. And if you haven't, there's going to be some repercussions, and you decide what those repercussions are.
Give them some actionable recommendations. They don't have to listen to the podcast.
No, they must.
But we'd love to have them. We would love to have them. Also, if you are ringing their doorbell and it's an Amazon Ring device, you should rip it off the wall.
Yes. In one foul swoop. And tell them I didn't give you permission to spy on me. So,
because I'm sure then they'll take your podcast advice right after you rip off their brand new expensive ass video doorbell.
It's like, just take control of your neighborhood. Rip down the Nest device. Give them quality Bitcoin information and get their lives straight. This world is off kilter right now. People need some actionable, good advice, and these are actionable steps that you can take to develop better practices within your local neighborhood. All right, we're just looking out for your neighborhood. Consider TFTC your neighborhood watch.
So to go back to updates, BTC Pay server got updated v1.0.5.3. A bunch of PSBT updates in that, and PayJoin now works with hardware wallets. What else do we have here? We have Ronin Dojo v1.5 got updated. It brought all the packages up a notch and fixed a bunch of bugs and reliability fixes. We already talked about Samurai Dojo v1.7. Spectre v0.5.5 got updated. I mean, that's a really big deal. I think Spectre is like one of the software packages that we should really be watching. I like to see someone provide a grant to them, because I think that's how that seems like our best shot here at getting the soonest that we get user-friendly multi-sig with your own node. So I'm watching that project very closely. Tallycoin v2.1 also got updated.
I'm liking Tallycoin. I've distributed a few donations using Tallycoin. I really like the UI and the ethos of the project. I can't remember the name of the project off the top of my head, but there's a
what the dude?
There's a I believe it's Nigeria. A Nigerian is trying to
Spacebox.
I think yes, he's trying to get like a space box so he can set up like a town node.
It's like his node project, right?
Yeah. I threw some sats at that. I think that's a worthwhile project to look into. Can't remember the name of the project off the top of my head.
I think it's called Spacebox. Yeah, it's called Spacebox, and the guy's name is, I'm going to butcher this, Chimezie Chuta, and his tag is at MEZIE16. So he's using Tallycoin. I'm trying to... All right, DJ Booth 007 is the dev behind Tallycoin. I really like this dude. He's a hustler. He's a Bitcoiner. So the idea behind Tallycoin is, yes, if you're running if you want donations, you want tips, you want to do crowdfunding, you can run a BTC Pay server. You can host it yourself. The best way, practically to do a BTC Pay server is to run it in a VPS, at least until we have ways to tunnel from your home node, because you don't want to, if you're running BTC Pay on your home node without tunneling, you're exposing your IP address, which we've talked about on this pod like a bunch of fucking times. It's really bad for your privacy to be exposing home or office IP addresses. So you're going to run on a VPS, and then what happens is you're doing Luna node, because it's the cheapest one, and it's like $100 a year, and you're KYCing to do it. Well, it's like KYC. You have to do like cell phone verification, and they like block burners. So Tallycoin sits in the middle, and you upload an XPub, and it does a fundraiser for you. And they host it, and it's completely donation run. DJ Booth just accepts donations to pay for the service. He doesn't take a fee on top. So it's a nice middle ground. I do wish that the XPub integration served a new address every time. I don't know why it reuses addresses. That doesn't seem to be an option to serve a fresh address. I've been meaning to reach out to him about that, but I haven't. So if you're listening, DJ, curious. It'd be nice to have that feature.
Why? But beyond that, thank you for building it. I've used it twice. That Spacebox donation, then I helped contribute to the Jersey Shore banner ad, plane banner ad that flew down here over 4th of July.
And he fucking did it.
Right. And they wound up donating any excess proceeds to Lochamesh, so I went out and helped that as well. Give back.
What's his tag again? That's Adam that did that,
it's
right?
Adam Paul Moore. Shout out to Adam Paul Moore. Little known fact, Adam Paul Moore, one of the first believers in Marty's Bent and first advertisers of Marty's Bent. Got to give a shout out to him and his digital marketing company. I
met him in person.
Yeah, I've met him in person many times too. Another Philly guy, another legend. Adam, thank you for your early support of this media network or whatever this is.
Lifestyle brand.
Lifestyle brand. There we go.
We're Citadel Corporation.
Citadel Aesthetic Planners.
That banner he did was great. So this is another, just to go back, because I love going back to connections in RHR. This is a perfect situation, right? Where if you're doing a naive analysis of post-mix transactions, people who pay a Tallycoin fundraiser from their post-mix will appear as they're reusing addresses. But, that's because Tallycoin has a fixed address for the crowdfund. So that's not something that the wallet can really enforce.
I should probably know this, but is there an advantage from UTXO compression if you're just doing a one address? Is it cheaper that way?
No. But the advantage is, because there's still individual UTXOs, the advantage is it's very easy for transparency to show how much the crowdfund is raised, right?
Yeah. That probably makes most sense.
Because you can see the balance go up.
Yeah.
On the BTC Pay server crowdfunds, you're just trusting that the BTC Pay server crowdfund page is telling you exactly how much donations have come in.
Yeah.
But because addresses aren't being reused and because they have Lightning, you don't really know for sure.
Now, I imagine if you're pulling XPubs from hardware wallets too, that's probably just a user experience hack by DJs. Instead of having to deal with the gap forward problem, just use one address.
I know it's weird though, right? Because Tallycoin lets you upload a single fixed address, but then it also lets you upload an XPub, and when you do the XPub, it gives you a fresh address for each crowdfund you set up, but not for each donation. It's just an interesting little yeah.
I bet it has something to do with the gap forward. That would make the most sense to me.
Well, if Tallycoin doesn't do it, there will be an easy way to accept donations without reusing addresses soon. Besides, Samourai has paynims, but you can only pay with another Samourai wallet. Because no one else has implemented BIP47 yet, which is weird. But there's also going to be another wallet that implements BIP47. I just can't talk about it yet.
Ooh, talk about it. Drop some news. Scoop! I want to be able to scream scoop on Twitter at some point.
Yeah, but you can. I'll let you scream scoop when it's ready.
How can we never scoop? We never get the scoop tweets here at TFTC.
Because we scoop all the time. We just don't have to tell people it's a scoop.
It's true.
They just know it's a scoop.
It's true. I don't want to.
I'm not throwing shade at Frankie Scoops.
Frankie Scoops. We're happy for your scoops. Scoop-de-doop. I called Dudas a tool on Twitter yesterday.
Why did he tell people to hack Presidente?
I don't know. It was a bad move. Dave was not happy. That was like the worst. Like, it was the best Bitcoin marketing day ever, and Dudas had to ruin it, getting Davey Day Trader all riled up.
Do we know what his reasoning was?
Dudas's, or?
Yeah.
I mean, I can only.
Does he not like Barstool?
Just based on observation, I could imagine that it's not his favorite brand.
That was a weird tweet. Anyway, it was deleted before I saw it.
Yeah,
as is tradition.
Typical. But hey, we try to talk about ideas, not people here at the FTC.
Do we?
We like to mix it in and out. BitUda, which is a company in New York. I believe they're in New York. I'm pretty positive they're in New York. Attempting to create markets for hedging products for miners and other people within the Bitcoin industry, came out with an incredible analysis of the Bitcoin mining landscape. Yesterday they dropped it. I believe they're doing it in conjunction with Fidelity, who is trying to amass more data on the mining industry, particularly to help bring more transparency to the mining industry. And so BitUda came out with a report yesterday. It had some pretty, there's been rumblings of some of the stuff that they talked about throughout the industry for a bit now, but they basically confirmed it with some pretty good data. Biggest sort of data point that stuck out to me that, again, I've heard rumors of this, but it was very comforting to see them confirm it with some good data, is that China's share of overall hash rate in the Bitcoin network is around 50%, where in the last couple of years particularly, a lot of people have been throwing around the 60 to 65% range based off of past studies that have been done. And so it seems that hash rate is becoming geographically distributed, which is incredible to see. U.S., according to this report, is accounting for about 14% of hash rate, which is incredible to see. And I actually talked to somebody earlier today. He's
Wait, New York's at 14%?
United States.
Oh, United States.
Yeah. But I spoke with somebody earlier today on a panel for the Silicon Valley Bitcoin meetup. Marshall Long has been on this podcast. He's under the impression that it's actually higher than 14%. So it seems like hash rate's becoming more distributed. Also in that study, which we'll link to obviously in the show notes, you guys should go read it, just broke down the different sort of generations of miners, the S9 class, S17 class, S19 class, and they involve other ASICs with similar terahash outputs. So it's not just S9s, S17s, and S19s. It's those miners and miners with similar sort of hash rate output. And so you can see the breakdown there of what percentage of miners are dominating the network right now. And then the one thing I would contend with this, which I find hard to believe, is that the median price for energy right now between Bitcoin miners is 3 cents a kilowatt hour. I think that's a little low. I would imagine that's a bit higher. But this is what their data is showing. And again, it's just incredible to see that mining, which has been a huge point of FUD in the past, the fact that quote unquote China dominates mining, can shut down Bitcoin whenever. It seems that their power is waning pretty quickly as the ASIC life cycles extend longer into the future. So you don't have a situation where maybe like 3 or 4 years ago when a new ASIC would drop, it was more imperative to get it within the first few weeks and turn them on so that you can get your return on your investment. And obviously with the proximity to the production in China, they had a huge advantage there. But now with longer life cycles, you can wait a little bit longer from release to delivery and then plugging it into the wall, and that has helped distribute hash rate a bit more. And I think this trend will continue. Like I said in the bend today, things that we're discovering at Great American Mining, like at the oil and gas industry alone, like there's so many little nooks and crannies that we're discovering and can take advantage of from an arbitrage perspective, that I think this trend will only continue. I bet a majority of hash rate will be in North America at some point in the next 10 years. And is that a bad thing? Can the U.S. government attack Bitcoin at that point? Like, I would argue no. Getting to know
I would argue yes.
No, I would argue no. Getting to know the energy, like, so all these oil basins.
We don't want it in one country, Marty.
No, I'm not saying like 80%. I'm saying like we'll probably get to, I would imagine 30 to 40% at one time, and then that would be, if you want a hash rate concentrated at that high of a level, I would argue that you want it in North America between the United States and Canada predominantly, because again, these basins are the Bakken, the Permian, Marcellus Shale. They bleed across state lines and jurisdictions, and what you'll actually come to find in the U.S., similar to the COVID response where everything was allocated to the governors and it was sort of the state's decision to do what they want to do, the energy markets, actually very similar situation where like states have very different regulations and laws, and there's a sort of regulatory arbitrage there too that I think will sort of protect Bitcoin mining within the U.S.
I mean, I don't really. I guess, you know, we're a fan of localism on this podcast. So if states' rights are upheld, then that counts as distribution. I would agree. But we want it as distributed as possible. I would say.
Yeah. So.
Across different regulatory landscapes, hopefully not too much in. Yeah, you know, I think we agree on that. Not too much in the U.S. market. I'm trying to read through this. That's why I'm
distant
speaking in this way right now. Is there a chart that shows what they think the current distribution is? Because I keep finding charts that show implied capacity, like potential capacity. Do they have a chart that shows where they think the miners are located right now?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the two pie charts.
No, but isn't that implied capacity? Like total...
Control F14.
F14. I think I'm there. The U.S. follows with 14%.
So the figure...
What's interesting
geographic
here
distribution of
is,
surveyed mining capacity.
Right. So they have known capacity, like the potential to become Bitcoin miners. Kazakhstan and Iran are super high up there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Russia, but people know Russia.
If you want to give props, to distribution, shout out to Kazakhstan, fucking doing their thing.
But I don't think they're saying that there's miners in Kazakhstan yet. I think they're saying that they're particularly well suited to host Bitcoin miners, right?
No, there are. There's like a huge operation in Kazakhstan that's pretty well known.
What's also interesting here is that Iceland gets like a disproportionate amount of attention as being like a mining capital, and like they're implying that they have like no capacity. They're saying like 2% in Iceland or something like that.
Yeah, that would make sense considering the size of Iceland as a country.
It's because the alcohol taxes are so high. You're never going to get Bitcoin miners there.
Yeah. Now, Kazakhstan, I'm pretty sure, has a pretty legit operation in the middle of the country. And then Iran, obviously.
I mean, they obviously have less than 14%, though. Because the U.S. is number 2 in 14.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. But Kazakhstan's obviously not as big as the U.S., so they're competing. What do they have? 455 megawatts. It's pretty...
Borat would disagree with you.
Have you ever heard that conspiracy?
What's the conspiracy?
That Borat was just a psyop to keep people away from Kazakhstan because it's actually like an incredible country to live in.
I never heard that conspiracy, but it makes sense to me. I would also say that movie can never be made today.
Never, dude.
And
Let's just run through. Actually, my wife and I was doxed her name. We're talking about this the other night with my cousins. We had them over for dinner. Like, what movies could be made today?
None of the Mel Brooks movies could be made today.
American Pie. None of those movies. Sex Drive, which came out like when we were in high school, couldn't be like the first line of that movie. Like, would just get that.
Dude, this pod would go on forever. Like, almost no movies could be made today.
What does that say? Like, will we ever get back to a point where like an American Pie can get made? I sure hope so.
We will. It'll be fine. We're just going through a phase. It's just puberty.
Because I mean, and I've mentioned this. I don't think on RHR, but like in the interview series, like Hollywood sucks these days. It's just remakes and remakes and remakes and remakes and remakes. Like ideas, mainly superhero ideas, have been played out, and Disney movie ideas like Mulan, live action. Who cares?
Some of the superhero movies couldn't be made today.
Like which one?
I don't know. I'm sure there are a bunch of them couldn't be made today. I don't know.
Like the Michael Keaton Batmans was
yeah, like all the old ones couldn't be made today.
Yeah. Who's your favorite Batman?
Like the first new Joker movie, with what's his face, the guy who committed suicide.
Heath Ledger. I don't think he committed suicide. I think he overdosed.
Overdosed, right? It wasn't suicide. Apologies. Rest in peace.
That could be made again?
Do you think that one could be made today?
Yeah, I think that's timeless. I think that's a very good movie. Actually, American Hoddle...
Timeless. Don't jinx it, Mark.
American Hoddle and Vake got into a very interesting discussion that I watched from afar. What's the better, Batman Begins, or The Dark Knight? And very good discussion. Hard to say. The argument is that Batman Begins has a more structured and streamlined plot, and everything's sort of filled in start to finish, which I agree. I love Batman Begins, but I am partial towards Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker. I think it was masterful.
Okay, next Bitcoin discussion.
You see the Blantons got
Paradigm, the investment fund, who I think they make both VC investments, and they also buy like Bitcoin, and I assume they have shitcoin bags as well. Has just announced that they're funding Anthony Towns, renowned Bitcoin developer, which is fucking fantastic to see. We've seen so much more Bitcoin developer grants happen recently, and we did say previously in the pod that anyone who does it will get shilled. So we're holding up to that. I think these guys are the first fund to ever do it, right?
I believe so. What's the one in China? Maybe the first one. Who funded Luke Dasher?
Hardcore Fund.
Yes. Are they officially a fund or yeah?
No, I think Hardcore Fund is the name of like the donation. Like you could kind of count Chain Code, right?
Well, Chain Code's like funded by a fund. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, right? But this
Or
is the first time
office.
I think a fund has specifically
allocated capital,
funded Bitcoin development straight.
Yeah. Shout out to them. Hey, shout out Arjun.
I want to see more of this. Ari Paul, when Bitcoin development funding?
He's too busy shilling Bcash, dude. Craig Wright is Satoshi.
He's revised that history. He never shilled Bcash. He was never at Bcash.
Ideas.
His birthday cake just had Bitcoin Cash.
Ideas. No, but shout out. It's actually a great segue to another topic as well. Anthony Towns doing incredible work. He actually sparked a discussion on the Bitcoin Dev mailing list earlier this week, which I wrote about yesterday in the Bent, talking about potential activation paths for BIP Taproot, which is actually 3 BIPs, BIP 340, 341, and 342. And so him and Matt Corallo had a little back and forth that I wrote about. And I think anybody who is interested in Taproot and how changes get implemented into Bitcoin Core and how they're okayed by the network beyond the developers should definitely look into this discussion between Anthony and Matt, and so there's a couple proposals. Anthony has one that builds on a proposal that Luke Dasher, who was previously mentioned, proposed last month in the form of BIP 8. So you can go search BIP 8, and this is very similar to BIP 9 in that it has a sort of readiness threshold for miners and full nodes, and it has a flag day at which the change will activate or not activate depending on if the threshold is met or not met. And instead of a UTC time threshold, it's a block height threshold. And Matt Corralo, from the way I understand it, was a little apprehensive to okay this type of activation path. But regardless, it's an interesting sort of facet of Bitcoin, is activating these upgrades, and how do you reach consensus on this. So it's something that should definitely be read up on if you're interested in this stuff, and you should definitely know about as a Bitcoiner. It demands extreme responsibility, and that means understanding what these upgrades are, not just allocating trust to the developers, but trying to understand the stuff the best that you can.
What's Corralo's issue with this activation method?
He's worried about the precedent it may set of people just saying, hey, the developers want this, it's okay, like the way the activation happens. From what I read, I could have been misreading it. It seems to be like he seems to be under the impression that could be construed as a brute force activation from a developer sort of minority trying to force their ideas through.
I kind of like the idea of
could be wrong there.
An updated client being released that like pops up a tooltip dialogue that's like, do you want to flag Taproot? And then like, do you want to run Taproot? And then it gives you like links to for and against arguments, and then you select which one you like to do.
That's a slippery slope. Didn't we have that sort of phishing attack with Electrum?
Yeah, but I mean, it still would be like the open source Bitcoin core client. You're basically packaging two clients in one, right? You're just with like a slight variation.
But like how?
So like people can easily choose which one they want to run.
But how could you be certain it's not a phishing attack, right? If it's like a pop up with a link.
Okay, so fuck the link. What if it was just like it just said Taproot, no Taproot, and you just choose which client you were running, just very easily. I part of me feels like, first of all, I love the, don't trust verified ethos of Bitcoin. Part of me just feels like we're so scarred from the SegWit battle that we're almost like creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that we're going to battle over Taproot when what is the dissenting opinion on Taproot?
So I don't think there's any dissenting opinion on Taproot. I mean, there was that one that came out from like an anon group of devs, but it turned out to be pretty toothless from what I understand. But I think Matt's consternation and his apprehensiveness stems from the fact that, yes, like it's obviously most people want Schnorr and Taproot, but is this activation path setting a precedent that would make potentially more controversial upgrades easier to push through in the future? So just think about the precedent that this particular activation path sets.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah. And so I think Matt's proposal, he proposed it in early January. It would just take a bit longer to get it activated. There would be more debate and more time to hash things out and signal about preparedness and actual willingness to include this stuff in the code base.
Look, I'm I don't really. I think I'm pro Taproot, but I don't really have that strong of a. I want to see the upgrade happen, so we'll see what goes down here. We'll keep covering it on our.
Well, I want to see it happen because I think it makes. Obviously, we focus on privacy a lot here. It helps with privacy. Focus on scalability. and then utility, right? So this, and I've talked about it in the newsletter and on this pod. If you have your bingo boards, I've said that like 4 times already this podcast. But selfishly, like I think it would aid in my theory about Jevons paradox being applicable to Bitcoin UTXOs, because it would give, with Schnorr, Taproot, Graphroot, Miniscripts all working together, it gives users more utility with their UTXOs. You can write more complex scripts in it. You can do more complex transactions with it, which, if my Jevons paradox theory is correct, would drive more efficiency per UTXO, and therefore more usage of the Bitcoin network, developing this fee market that people are under the impression will not develop.
And if I'm not mistaken, it brings the cost of multisig down, right?
Yes, but I think that comes with like cross input sig aggregation.
Do we need SIG-AG for that?
I think so, and that would come after, but this is a stepping block towards that.
Either way, what I want to see is people smarter than me having like, I'm like been waiting for like someone smarter than me to have like a really good dissenting opinion on it. That's what I've been waiting for. And I just haven't seen it yet. And like full disclosure, like I was a fucking big blocker back in the day, like before the whole fight went down, and like I was swayed in the other direction. Like I read dissenting opinions on that, and I like came around and learned and got educated.
I never knew you were a big blocker. Did you follow Lop down like the XT path or something like that?
You know, I thought Gavin was like great fucking dude.
I did too at one point.
Do not think that anymore. You know, I didn't understand like the externalities and like the cost, and the idea that like if you're just pushing off cost on nodes, and you're centralizing the network, and no matter what, like those blocks are going to get filled up regardless. It was a very glamorous thing to begin with, right? Like it was very simple. Like you just increase the block size.
Yeah, remember the
and then
remember the 2-4.
You get more transactions at lower fees. Like it seems simple enough, right?
Yeah, the Hong Kong 248 deal was a big.
Right. So I was a big blocker before that.
Okay.
Like I came around like pretty early, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Hey, you live and you learn.
Live and learn.
You live and you learn. Go learn about Taproot and a potential activation pass, and shout out to our boy JKL. He responded to yesterday's email asking like, how does one join the conversation? It's a simple, I mean, just find any communication path. And JKL, I had to respond to your email, so I'm sorry I'm a little late on that, but it's as simple as getting on Twitter and speaking up. Obviously, it's not the only communication method to use. You can get on Reddit. You can pop on Bitcoin IRC.
Yeah. Mailing list.
Obviously, approach it. Try to educate yourself as much as possible before jumping into that like IRC and mailing list, so that.
Yeah, don't spam the mailing list, freaks.
Yes. Come with educated. With a background. Don't join the mailing list and be like, hey, what is Taproot? Can you explain it to me?
Let's talk about something that I know more about. Zap came out and Jack Mallers admitted that they raised, or like announced that in April they raised $3.5 million from, I think, Oak Ridge Capital was the lead investor there. Nope, Green Oaks Capital. And Morgan Creek was involved too with it, which is Mark Yusko and Pomp. So I mean that's obviously mostly for the strike element of Zap, but that's all bundled together. So congrats on that fundraise.
3.5 mil. Making Zap Wallet better.
Blockchain Commons released their animated QR code demo. Did you see this? How fucking cool was this?
It's really cool. And I actually had the opportunity to talk to Zach Herbert about it for a while yesterday, who's building foundation devices. And it really makes a lot of sense. Like we talk about standardization a lot here, like HWI, PSBT standardization, Lightning developer kit, Bitcoin developer kit standardization, and what they're trying to do at Blockchain Commons. Shout out Christopher Allen and team, who've contributed to Fully Noted as well. They're trying to create like a QR code standardization across wallet implementations so that it's just easier to sort of add these functionalities, QR code functionalities to wallets particularly. So if you watch the demo, which we'll link to, he's got different...
It's really cool.
So the way Zach described it to me, like the QR codes can hold a certain amount of data in them, and depending on the resolution of your wallet or phone camera, it sort of has to break those messages up into multiple QR codes. And so just being able to dissect that message through a camera is what the standard's trying to produce, I believe.
It's more than that, right?
Yeah.
Like you can only send so much data through a QR code, a static QR code, right? So these QR codes are those boxy things that you see that like Bitcoin addresses are, which are what Bitcoiners know it as, where you scan it with your phone camera or some kind of camera device, your computer. They're particularly useful for transferring data through air-gapped devices, so you don't have to connect them to each other, right? Right now we have the cold card does SD card air-gap. QR code is great in theory, but it just doesn't transfer as much data. So like these new PSBTs, especially after that vulnerability that got announced where they have to transfer more data than before, it's just not practical to send them through a single QR code. So what they did was they did animated QR codes. So they can send an unlimited amount of data, and you just keep your camera just pointed at it. So if we have hardware wallets and computers that are transferring information back and forth, they can transfer basically unlimited amount of data. And if it misses things in between, it also knows like where it is in it. So it can go back and fill in the blanks. It's pretty slick.
Yeah. The demo is like very aesthetically pleasing too. It's got like nice noises to it. If you're into ASMR, I imagine the clicking of receiving parts of the message via QR code would get you off. But yeah,
so you're against porn, but you're cool with ASMR.
No, I said if you are cool. Like I don't listen to ASMR,
Okay.
But yeah, stop watching porn, freaks. Hello, freaks. How's it going? But yeah, a team that's really had their nose to the grindstone, doing stuff. Christopher Allen and team at the Blockchain Commons, very underscored in the space right now. So pumped to see them release this, and hopefully, again, going back to the standardization topic, this is incredible to see. If we can get a QR code standardization, it's just one other area that more people can coordinate and build using, which is great for the overall ecosystem and optionality for users at the end of the day. Putin's mad at Bitcoin.
Yeah, so we're an hour and a half in, so let's wrap this baby up.
You want to wrap it up? I can go 2 hours, dude.
Wow, I love it, Marty. I love it. Russian activists are using Bitcoin. CoinDesk did not an expose. I don't know, fucking a focus on it. Not a focus, a spotlight on it. And the main Russian activist is, what's his name again? You just said it. Navalny. Alexei Navalny, who's run for president a bunch of times, been in jail a bunch of times, and they've stopped his political donations a ton of times, but they can't stop his Bitcoin donations. And what's really interesting here is just the fact that he can receive Bitcoin donations protects his fiat donations. Because when they block the fiat donations, the Bitcoin donations go up, which is one thing we've talked about on the pod here many times, is when there is a need, people figure it out. They will figure it out. So it provides cover. It's like, and this is one thing that we've actually talked about with shitcoins. A lot of these shitcoins wouldn't exist if Bitcoin wasn't as, censorship resistant as it was, right? It's so censorship resistant that governments are not incentivized to go after the low-hanging fruit because they're like, well, we can't actually kill anything here. They'll just move somewhere else.
Yeah. And this really drives the point of, like we talked about last week or the week before, Venezuelan government accepting Bitcoin payments for passport services, and then the citizens of Venezuela actually using Bitcoin. It'll be interesting to see how these governments weigh the opportunity cost, right? Like, is allowing their citizens to use Bitcoin outside of the state jurisdiction worth putting up with if you can also use it yourself? And it seems that Russia, in this example, is not too happy about it. So the jurisdictional arbitrage in this regard will be interesting to watch play out as well, as citizens under despotic governments utilize Bitcoin while they're utilizing it as well.
I mean, but Putin will never say it officially, but he loves Bitcoin, so he's not going to fucking go after the network. He'll try and go after the users in Russia, but he's limited in that respect. And the other thing here, which is interesting, is the spokesperson for his campaign said to CoinDesk that it's a negative that they can't do automatic reoccurring donations. I hear this a lot, no automatic subscriptions, no automatic donations. This is old world thinking, that's a feature, not a bug. There's first of all, it will never be solved. I'm sorry. It's just, you're never going to have the ease of just pulling money out of people's credit cards and bank accounts. But that's good. People should pay you when they want to pay you. I think we gotta get past this idea of it as a negative of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. This is overwhelmingly a positive. Switch your models to yearly or monthly instead of daily or whatever it is, and they'll pay you when they want to use it or when they want to contribute.
I think our favorite VPN is a great example of that, Molvad. I just re-upped my Molvad yearly subscription earlier this week, and I just got a notification hey, your 1 year token's running out. You need to re-up. It was pretty simple.
Yeah, and if you don't do it, you don't get VPN service.
Yeah.
Right? That's a pretty good incentive. And one thing with that is, with VPN specifically, is you really want to do it while you still have VPN service so you can use the VPN to pay it. Because you don't want to do it on ClearNet.
Well, that's if you're paying over your browser with a debit card, right? Or PayPal. I pay with Bitcoin.
Well, even if you're paying with Bitcoin, it's nice to connect to Molvad with a VPN.
So they're getting paid from their servers. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise your ISP knows you're going to Molvad to pay them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, you could use Tor browser and that Lightning tool that Carl Dong made.
Oh, yes.
Which is accessible through Tor. He has an Onion
streaming
site,
payments
so you
for
could do it that way.
Yeah. Shout out to Carl Dong. Legend of the game. Doing his best to make sure Bitcoin has secure, reproducible builds. Geeks builds.
My last three topics here are all state surveillance stuff.
Last two topics, right? Microsoft and...
Oh, yeah, but I mean, I was including the Russian activists.
Yeah. Microsoft's fucking...
Did you see this article?
Yeah, they're partnering with police forces, loading up facial recognition stuff to Azure. What else are they doing?
But meanwhile, they're virtue signaling about being pro BLM and shit.
Yeah.
See, we're not just angry at Coinbase. If you sell surveillance fucking software, you're an enemy of the people. That's just what it is. Even if you're Microsoft. Microsoft can go fuck themselves.
Yeah. Bill Gates, not a part with them anymore, but what the hell, man? What the hell?
So this article was by The Intercept. They do great work on this in this topics. They have this Microsoft domain awareness system, which is pretty crazy. They have screenshots from it, which is pretty crazy. It helps police aggregate all of their surveillance cameras and whatnot. They have Microsoft's Connected Officer for Internet of Things surveillance. They have all these different police tools, and then on top of that, their cloud is a government-certified cloud that runs a bunch of other subcontractors' shit. Meanwhile, they virtue signal like crazy, pretending like they're just like helping the world. So, hypocrisy at its finest.
Yeah, I think
Switch to Linux.
let's use it as heuristic. If these major corporations are really on your side or for a certain cause, it's probably not really revolutionary. They want to maintain their status as stalwarts of industry and crony capitalism. So if they're championing causes, you can use a heuristic to say, hey, this may not be revolutionary, or it may not bring the change that we hope it will. Just word to the wise. This other one's pretty scary as well. How do you pronounce this? Meter?
Have you ever heard of them?
No, I mean, that's the point of the article. It's like hush, hush.
I've never heard of them before.
I think that's the point. I think shout out to this Forbes reporter, Thomas Brewster, for bringing this story to light. It seems that the U.S. government, Department of Homeland Security particularly, is working with a third party to track anybody, not even U.S. citizens, people come across the border, people at protest, people who may or may not have COVID, basically hacking smartwatches. They're tracking metadata and sharing it with...
Collecting human fingerprints from social media websites.
How is that possible? That's like the...
I think it's like pictures, like if you take a picture with a glass or something and your fingers are showing, or like your fingerprints on the glasses are showing, like you're like cheers, and like on the beer glass your fingerprint is there. I don't know. It doesn't really explain how, but that's fucking crazy.
Right? How do you pronounce this company? Mitri?
Miter? Mitri.
MIT.
I think that's part of it.
MITRE,
right?
yeah.
One of the interesting things they mentioned in here is they were actually integral in taking down Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road. They were participating in that as well.
Free Ross.
Which has the Bitcoin connection.
Free Ross. Fuck, man.
It's a fucked up expose.
It is. It's a fucked up world right now, dude. Like these PPP loans are about to run out. The extra $600 in unemployment support is about to run out the end of this week, I believe, or next week. We were talking about it before we hit record. Like, this fall is going to be interesting, man.
I'm surprised. You know, like, I wasn't one for UBI, but like, if you're going to force close businesses, and this is what we've talked about this before, like, if you're going to like force close businesses, like, the government's got to step in, and they got to give people money. Like, that's just like, that should be the tit for tat. Like, you're going to close it. So I'm really surprised that we haven't seen more Trump bucks. And I think it just is like an automatic win for him in the election. You know, like, that's obviously will build support if you give people money. People like getting money. They don't care about the long term, whatever it is. And the other thing is, like, what was it? Alyssa Milano
Yeah.
Posted about just printing money and giving it to people like UBI.
She posted the Wikipedia link to quantitative easing.
Yeah, a bunch of people got triggered by it and like were arguing with her in the Twitter comments. I don't have to argue with her in the Twitter comments because I have Bitcoin. That's the point, right? Like, well, you know, they can. I guess this is like the accelerationist in me showing, right? But like, whatever. Like, you do you, and I don't have to get triggered by that, and I don't have to argue with you because I have money that you can't do that with.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I and a lot of the freaks out there listening completely agree with you. But and actually, I mean, UBI obviously among Bitcoiners is taboo and the Antichrist. But I mean, if you're going to shut down the economy, I think it makes more sense to inject the working and middle class with capital instead of the corporations who have done stock buyback. I mean,
Yeah, if you're gonna print money, like give it to everyone instead of just giving it to like a select few at the top.
Yeah.
It's like that seems pretty simple to me. And then like if I get it, like I'm gonna buy Bitcoin.
same, but
Like full disclosure.
it's like this is where like the Alex Jones tinfoil hat Marty comes on. Like, are they like controlled destruction of the middle and working class? Like it is.
It is.
Like, but is it controlled? And
I don't think that's Alex Jones. I mean, we've already seen, but
Is it
that's
a
what we've seen without UBI.
But is it a concerted
right?
effort to, like, is it a concerted effort, or is it malice or incompetence? I'm trending towards malice.
It's mostly malice, but it's not like there's like I don't think there's like this secret cabal. I think they're just like our buddies at the top, like in the will all benefit from our policies.
That's a cabal. You just described a cabal.
I guess, but I'm just saying, like, it doesn't have to be like it's not super complicated.
No,
you know, it's just they're also at the top, so like I'm benefiting myself. You know, it's greed. Like humans are greedy, right? Like that's the beauty of Bitcoin is that the incentives are set up that if you're greedy, it's good for the whole system.
Well, then that's the question, though. Like, if that is the case, and the working and middle class and lower classes are just getting bled dry, are they just waiting to bleed us dry to a point where we can't fight back? Like, what's it like we were discussing before we hit record? What's this fall going to be like with the systemic unemployment? And there's actually a Forbes article came out today, made a great case that the shutdowns may actually do more harm to people's health in the short to medium term than the actual virus.
Well, especially without UBI.
Without UBI, like people aren't going to get checked to see if they have cancer. People are having strokes and mini heart attacks and not going to the hospital out of fear that they'll get COVID. And at what? I think we're at the point where the opportunity cost is way out of whack. Yeah, we fucked up, and to give a hat tip towards potential incompetence rather than malice, it may just be like a sunk cost fallacy from a policy standpoint, where politicians and the people that they've allocated power to are just so dedicated to their solutions and their reputation that it's maybe they're too far gone, too much sunk cost and the shutdown that it's they have too much ego to backtrack on that. Who knows?
I think it's mostly malice and greed, and it is what it is. That's it's broken incentives. The incentives are fucking broken, and I try not to get too caught up in it because that's why I Bitcoin. There's one of the reasons I Bitcoin, at least. It is an insurance policy, and I would push back on the idea that they could break us from fighting back. Like, I mean, if that's the plan, like, they got a long way to go still. That's, I don't think...
Dude, have you looked at the permanent unemployment numbers?
Yeah, but it's, I mean, look, we'll see how it plays out. It's not a positive situation. It's I mean, look, all you have to do is see the unemployment numbers and see stock market go up, right? And that is, you combine those two things together, and that's the rich getting richer. And that's why I refuse to like berate the Robin Hood class of traders, right? Because they're just trying to get their take.
Right.
Right, and then they don't hate the player, hate the game, right? The game is broken, the incentives are broken, and maybe we need like a little bit of chaos before it all works out better, you know? And is that going to be good? No, like that'll fucking suck. But like the status quo is fucking broken. It's like so fucking far gone. So like that's my state of reference, and you know, I'm bullish on Bitcoiners. The groups of people that we surround ourselves with all the time, fortunately not enough recently, at least in person, give me hope. And I'm going to see a bunch of Bitcoiners tomorrow, so that's good. So there you go.
Where at?
Oh, I'll mention to you after the pod. I was supposed to bring it up to you privately.
Okay.
We are not talking about it now on the podcast.
No, I agree. I mean, just thinking of not letting like an economic collapse happen, but letting like true cleansing of the system happen. That may be in our near future, and it's not going to be pretty. It will be tumultuous.
You got to rip the Band-Aid.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you know, if you're going to print the money, you might as well just send me a check. That's like how I feel
send me a check.
about
Turn that into Bitcoin. Where I'll pull it up, put it in cold storage, find your Citadel, subscribe to this podcast, go rip your neighbor's Nest surveillance system off their doorbell. Do your part. Be an Uncle Jim. Rate, subscribe, share the podcast, share the newsletter, share the tutorial videos. One man at a time, one mind at a time. It's the mission we're on here.
Bitcoin is protest money. Stack that shit.
That's all we got this week. Peace and love, freaks.